wandering through the woodlands and swamps of the southeast United States, you might get a feeling that something is amiss. In the last episode of the Trail of Tears series, we learned that Cherokees are no longer in the North Georgia mountains. Sadly, the Creek tribes, or Muscogee tribes that used to roam these lands around the Ocmulgee River, are also not here. Fortunately, there are few structures left to remind us that people lived in this region for at least 12,000 years before the Europeans arrived. I was excited about the possibility of seeing the lost Lamar culture mounds and a village site. This is undisturbed native village site from the 16th century located near Macon, Georgia. But I didn't know that the site was closed to the public, fenced off on private property, and that Google Maps would take me to the wrong side of the river. Even the cows were stunned by seeing this lost guy who disturbed their peaceful afternoon grazing. The Lamar Mounds are significant because of their unique spiral mound design, at least for one of the mounds. Historians and archaeologists believe that in 1540, the expedition of Spanish conquistador Hernando de Soto passed to this village in their search for precious metals. However, their deadliest legacy left behind were diseases to which natives didn't have any immunity. It is likely that high death rates contributed to the collapse of the Mississippian culture in southeast United States. This highly organized and sophisticated society was replaced with smaller tribes in loose confederacies. The Scottish fur traders from the Carolinas who settled in this area in the 1690s called these native peoples Ochesa's Creek, which was later shortened to Creek. The settlers took Muscogee wives who were often daughters of chiefs. This was a common practice among fur traders in Canada, since it created alliances with the natives and therefore improved the newcomers' chances of survival. Unfortunately, today you can't see Lamar Mounds, but Ocmulgee Mounds nearby are open to the public. The museum inside the visitor center is very interesting because you can see many artifacts excavated in this area. But the most breathtaking exhibit is the reconstructed Earth Lodge. This structure was used to conduct meetings, make important decisions, and perform religious ceremonies.
Made for really short people.
Inside this Earth Lodge, there's an original clay floor that is 42 feet in diameter, and it has been carbon dated to 1015 AD, so it's more than 1,000 years old. There are molded seats for the tribe leaders, and in the middle is the bird or eagle effigy, where the chief was sitting.
Mississippians were sky watching and were keenly aware of the solstices and equinoxes. The four pillars that once supported the timbered roof are aligned in the cardinal directions, north-south and east-west. In a sense, the Earth Lodge also told time. A long tunnel running exactly east-west linked the Earth Lodge with the outside world. At sunrise on only 2 days each year, February 22nd and October 22nd, a shaft of light sweeps directly over the central fire and illuminates the chief's seat. We can only imagine what ceremonials were held here, what rituals were played out. The Earth Lodge was destroyed by fire about the year 1000. It may have been burned on purpose as part of a ritual cleansing.
Between the Earth Lodge and the Great Temple and Lesser Temple Mounds is the marked location of the trading post from the 1690s. The views from the Great Temple Mound are impressive, but it takes some imagination to visualize the structures on top of the mound where the chief or main priest was living and controlling the whole village. A documentary that is shown in a visitor center may help with that. the 1770s, a naturalist William Bartram from Philadelphia traveled in this area and was impressed with these mounds. He was the first to record the Muscogee oral histories and wrote about the mounds as wonderful remains of the power and grandeur of the ancients in this part of America. Lower Creek, or Lower Muscogee tribe of Georgia, initially had good relations with the federal government of the United States. This good working relationship was the result of the diplomacy effort between Benjamin Hawkins and Muscogee Principal Chief Alexander McIlvery, was the son of the Muscogee woman and a wealthy Scottish fur trader. He secured U.S. recognition of Muscogee and Seminole sovereignty by the Treaty of New York in 1790. But with the invention of the cotton gin in 1794, which made cotton cultivation more profitable, there was a growing appetite to acquire more Muscogee land. Under government pressure in 1805, the previous treaty from 1790 was disregarded, and the Lower Creek or Muscogee Nation ceded the lands east of the Ocmulgee River, but they refused to surrender these sacred Ocmulgee and Lamar Mounds. In 1806, the Jefferson administration ordered Fort Benjamin Hawkins to be built on a hill overlooking the mounds. This frontier fort was used by U.S. Army Command headquarters as a supply depot for campaigns in the War of 1812 against the British in Louisiana, but it was also used as a trading post for deerskin with the Muscogee Nation. The replica of the original fort was reconstructed in 1938. This is an important historical and archaeological site that is basically the original location of what is today the great city of Macon. And all these artifacts were found here, right, on grounds?
Except for some, the arrowheads were donated.
Okay.
To someone who loved Fort Hawkins and loved the history of Macon.
Yeah, I always keep looking for these, but I could never find any.
You have to have an eye. I've got.
Yes.
Benjamin Hawkins was a North Carolina statesman, was appointed by George Washington to come down here into the Georgia area, which at the time was frontier.
Yes.
This was as far as the country went. An advocate for the Indians, for the indigenous peoples of the area, and had a really good rapport with them, and he was known as an Indian agent. And I want to show you this, if you can pick it up, because this is an actual photograph of the original blockhouse before they moved it, okay?
That's from 1876. Wonderful. But this fort never actually saw any action. No battle ever occurred here, right?
No, it was never really established as a military action type facility, though it did house some members of the military for the War of 1812. It did house some armaments for the Civil War, and it is on what is called the Garrison or Federal Road. It was the road used for Pony Express, because from Washington all the way down to New Orleans, this was the road that was traveled.
This was the route.
This was the route, exactly.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah, so it was quite a busy little piece of land. So at Ocmulgee, at the time that this fort was built, eventually moved here and was centered in the center of the fort. Okay. So Ocmulgee Old Fields, as they were called, and this fort had a very symbiotic relationship.
Yeah, do you get any Muscogee natives visiting this place?
Now every September we do have Indian Festival at Ocmulgee Mounds, and it does bring back quite a few.
Are you surprised by the rich history of this area around Macon? But wait, we are not done yet. Only an hour's easy ride north from here is our next destination, which is a significant historical site for Native Americans, and therefore for all of us. We'll visit Eagle Rock near Eatonton in Putnam County, Georgia. The Rock Eagle Mound is a stone effigy. It's measuring 8 feet high at the breast in the center. It was built around 2,000 years ago by Native Americans. Many believe that it was built for religious or ceremonial purposes. So it's definitely a bird, but no one knows for sure what type of bird it is. This site was actually excavated in 1930s and very few artifacts actually found. Only a few human bones and animal bones, which would indicate that this was actually a cremation site. The Eagle Rock Mound is 102 feet long from the tip of the head to the bottom, and the wingspan is 120 feet or 36 meters. This bird effigy is impressive to see. Another interesting fact is that only 2 bird effigies are found east of Mississippi River. One of them is Rock Eagle that we just visited, and there's another one that it's only 13 miles southeast from here, also in Putnam County, and that's where we're going next. Impressive tower to see the second effigy east of Mississippi River. This one is in poor condition. It's really hard to see the outlines of the bird, but it's possible to see it if you use your imagination. Obviously, we have no idea what type of bird it's supposed to be, what the original builders intended to build, but we can imagine that this site was sacred to natives. The bird effigy mounds in Putnam County were built by woodland native people about 3,000 to 1,000 years ago. These sites are significant not just for these stone bird-shaped mounds, but also because shamans or high priests selected these sacred sites for a good, but to us, unknown reason. The woodland people's lives were hard and short, but many believed they were more spiritually connected to nature and to each other. These people knew astrology and built the mounds to be aligned with the stars. Obviously, there are no written records, but relatively new genetic science is showing some interesting data that is changing our understanding of prehistoric people's origins. There's also evidence that natives in the southeast knew and traded with Mayan cultures in Mexico and other native tribes in the north. We are just scratching the surface of this puzzle. As for the Muscogee people, some sects eventually rebelled once they understood what the purpose of all those treaties, diplomacy, and politics was all about. The war ended in 1814 with the defeat of the Red Sticks at the Battle of Horseshoe Bend in Alabama. Following this defeat at the Treaty of Fort Jackson, they were required to cede 23 million acres of land, more than half of Alabama and the remaining land in southern Georgia. The forced removal of the small remaining population of Muscogee people was completed in 1837. This is known as the Trail of Tears. However, as with the Cherokees, not everyone left. To meet with the remaining Muscogee people, we'll have to cross state lines to Alabama. I hope you will join me as this adventure continues.